Welcome, Night Owls, to the Book Club After Dark podcast, an inviting moonlit podcast. I'm your host, Danny.
And I'm Michelle. We break down fantasy, romantasy, and thriller novels.
All things enchanting, intriguing, suspenseful, and maybe a little spicy.
Each episode features intimate discussions on captivating stories, character breakdowns, fan theories, and more. And here's your content warning. This podcast contains mature themes and discussions that may not be suitable for all audiences. Episodes include explicit language and descriptions of mature romance, as well as depictions of violence and other intense subject matter. This podcast is rated R for mature audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
And of course, going forward from here, this is your spoiler warning for Brimstone, the Fae and Alchemy series, all things Quicksilver, all the things. So consider this your spoiler warning.
Let's get cozy because the best stories are told after dark.
Yes. So, drink of the episode. We are back and we have what I'm calling the Anti-Venom, which isn't super fancy name, but it's a pretty fancy drink. We've got this like freeze-dried, like really cool fancy orange peel on the top, like well, dehydrated, I guess it would be. And then we have some cranberries on the top and we have a cinnamon sugared rim. Inside the beverage. It's got this like off red color, so not deep red. I didn't want something like blood red. I wanted something a little bit off for the anti-venom vibe. And then it's got some triple sec, so that orange flavor, the cranberry with the fresh cranberry there, and then tequila, of course. So it's kind of like a holiday margarita. Sure.
Yeah.
We'll go with that.
That looks pretty. I love like the cinnamon sugar, so it's like a little spicy, but it's a little sweet.
Yeah. We got like a little bit, we're like right in that weird holiday season vibe right now. We're like kind of before we get into spring. So definitely still like a winter vibe. And so I felt like all of those things kind of made this our drink of the episode. And of course, with the anti-venom, lots to talk about there. So we'll definitely be getting into that more. Yeah.
Cheers.
Here we go. Cheers. It's really good. Very smooth.
Ooh.
Also some fresh lime juice in there too to balance everything out. Michelle, you're well on your way to being quite ready for a drink of the episode at this point.
Yeah, I'm going to have to time it though, with feeding and whatnot and, all of that. But yeah, I can soon actually drink something.
For our new listeners, why might that be a thing? Why am I mentioning that?
I just had a beautiful baby boy, December 3rd. So now we're at, by the time this episode airs, I'll be 6 weeks postpartum, in the clear with that. Still enjoying the newborn haze as much as possible, but it's hard with a preschooler also. It's chaos over here, basically.
Yeah.
Sleep happening intermittently. But
okay, that's fair. But tonight, we're diving back into Yavelia. I know everybody's shocked by that. And we're going to continue our exploration of Brimstone by Callie Hart. We're going to do chapters 19 through 27. And I just want to make sure we understand that this is not going to be deep dive like we did with Quicksilver. If you've been a listener of ours for a while, you'll know that we did extremely deep dive chapter by chapter recaps. While we will brush over the chapters, a lot of this is going to be our thoughts and feelings on a lot of things, not so in depth, a little bit more high level. Close out the episode with a new segment that we're calling Down the Rabbit Hole, which I have some information for that. We'll wrap with mystery Q&A. And yeah, we're just really glad that you're here. Let's get it started. So we're going to be covering chapters again, 19 through 27 of Brimstone by Callie Hart. Our thought and feeling is, if you're at this point by now, you have either already read Brimstone in full or you're okay with spoilers at this point. So whether you're reading along with us or you're just here for the book talk, we are always glad that you're here.
Always. So let's get into it. For our chapter, we're going to start with chapter 19. And this is a big chapter for us because we had a theory on this chapter. It was totally wrong. Kingfisher and Carrion, they just dealt with Josh in here. They're in Borath's shop. They have to make the anti-venom because Carrion and Kingfisher are tripping the fuck out. They're seeing dead people ultimately. And yeah. And they have like welts all over them.
The way I went to the Sixth Sense, yeah, they're just like not in a good place.
No, Carrion's like, do you see dead people? Yeah, okay, good. At least we're both tripping out, not just me.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my gosh. Shrek and Donkey show continues.
Yep. And after they take the anti-venom, they essentially go rest in Carrion's apartment. And this is where we have the famous quote that Callie Hart, the audio release where Carrion and Fisher, essentially Saeris made glass cups. And Carrion was very particular of actually collecting them because she would make really fun designs on them and they couldn't be sold. And Fisher asks him, are you in love with her? And Carrion's, no. Yes. It's not simple. It's not a simple thing. Because he loves her, and he could have loved her, but he's not in love with her because he's been in
They're like besties, sort of.
they are, but he specifically says like because he has outlived so many loves in his life, he has become like dull and numb to that point, and he had a great love in his past, which who knows if we'll ever find out who that is if we ever get Carrion extended edition stuff. But he essentially was like,
which we will.
We will. I hope so.
Yeah, I guess that. Yeah.
Yeah, but it breaks you. I love how with the Shrek and Donkey show, you're getting a lot more depth with Carrion's character because he's not surface level. There's a lot more to them. And yeah, I made the mistake of falling in love with a human, and she died. And I don't die like that. And it's heartbreaking for him. But it also, this is where we're seeing Kingfisher open up to Carrion too, because we all love Carrion ultimately before his humor, but now we're loving him more for his depth, and Kingfisher also is too. So it's really fun watching him go from this fucking guy, I hate him, to like, okay, you're all right. I understand your feelings. Yeah. So they get their little bromance going on.
And then the way that you text me and you're like, are you at chapter 19? And I was like, not yet. I think I'm in 14. You're like, okay, text me when you get to chapter 19. Or maybe it was reversed. Maybe I got there first. I can't remember who at this point because now I've read it more than once. I was just like, fuck, we definitely got this completely wrong.
Yeah.
We definitely thought this was Tal. Yeah. And I wanted to ask you about that before we like keep going. I was kind of curious, like, what did you think generally overall of the lack of what we thought would be a more intense feeling between Tal and Saeris? I don't know what.
I was here for the wide shoes. Everyone who I've talked to, I was like, you know what? Fine. And Tal obviously is here for a wide shoes also, because we find out he's
not opposed.
But not with them, which I mean, it checks out in terms of like they're fated makes. You can't fuck with that. That like kind of messes with the whole trope in a sense. So
no, you're right.
That makes sense. What about you? What did you think? Were you disappointed or?
Well, it brings us to our down the rabbit hole conversation that I want to have. Okay. And some of that has to do with like tropes we wanted to happen but didn't happen. And are we going to like blame a genre for that or blame an author for things that we did or didn't want? And there was a lot of backlash on this book in particular related to people not getting things that they wanted. And so I want to talk about that more in Down the Rabbit Hole. So when we get to that segment, I definitely want to really get into those thoughts a little bit more, because I think there's some things there that are uncomfortable. And that's exactly why I want to talk about them, because I think that there's a space that we are creating as folks in this space that may not be healthy, and maybe something we really want to identify.
Social
that just
media
needs to
not
stay.
Healthy.
Who said that? I know, we're so shook by this, but I think some of that just really needs to stay in 2025 and not come into this new year. Yeah, so we'll talk about that more. But I did think it was funny how we were definitely completely wrong. And I want to emphasize the fact that that is okay. And we are like very okay with being completely wrong. And a reminder too that, it's part of the fun. And it's, if you took that, what we said as like fact, we're talking about social media and how we are quick to be like, hey, no, it wasn't. Hey, it was Carrion. Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. You've read it now, so now you know that it was Carrion, but we appreciate you letting us know that. And it's, what's the goal there? You know what I mean? We were just having fun, like thinking about, we definitely think it could be this. It's got to sound like this. But did we know? No. And actually, I think what it did was validate the fact that we had no idea either. We're just readers trying to enjoy and go on the ride with everyone else. Chapter 20, Saeris. We're bouncing back and forth again. So just a reminder, we're going back and forth between where Saeris is and where Carrion and Kingfisher are. Kingfisher and Carrion, of course, are in Zilvaren. And we have Saeris, who's back in the castle in Amtraeth. So we're bouncing back and forth between where everybody is. So Saeris is getting some sleep finally, because we know that she was told by Foley that she needs rest. really needs rest desperately, or she's not going to be able to get herself where she needs to be. So she falls asleep, and she's in this snowy cottage type deal. Yeah. And Fisher's outside, like, cutting some wood. And she's talking to him, and Onyx is in the cottage, and he's been following along in these dreams. And they finally have this moment because we're already in chapter 20, and him and Saeris have not hooked up yet, which is wild because I thought they probably would have done some kind of spicy time.
They did in chapter 7.
But not.
They had it was chapter 7. He, like, bit her.
Yeah, but it wasn't, I guess, ish. I don't know. I thought that this scene was more their style. I don't know.
Yeah.
I know they had one hookup scene in chapter 7. But this to me was more in depth. It was a longer, I don't know. I just felt like
it was
this
more
was
drawn out. Yeah. I get what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. It was more like book 1. This scene in particular was very much more like their relationship that we've seen
they
so
were
far.
savoring
that had nothing
it.
to do with.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. And it's like just them in the cottage. It was just giving those vibes that are like they weren't rushed and they were just having some time together. And so they have this spicy time together, which is very romantic. And they're like talking to each other, like she thinks she's dreaming, he thinks he's dreaming. They are asleep actively. And they figure out, like, maybe this is some kind of part of our bond that we can be separated but meet while we're asleep. And the way that this reminded me so much of, what am I going to say, Michelle? Do you know?
No.
I'm going to say Zayden.
Oh, yeah.
And
in Fourth Wing. Yeah. Or Onyx Storm is when.
Yes. This was giving Onyx Storm vibes for me. So I was like, okay, we're doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Dreamwalking. So they're dreamwalking in this, and I was like, okay, we've seen dreamwalking before, but that's okay. And just a reminder too, like a lot of the tropes if you're new to romantasy, you shouldn't be surprised that you've read other types of things in other books. There's overlapping types of things. It's just the way that the storytelling is different and the way that the author takes us there. That's not a diss. It's just something. It's an observation.
There's only so much someone can create. Most things are recreations. Especially when you're going into a Fae realm. It's okay. We know certain aspects of the Fae are true in every single genre. It's just what's unique with Callie Hart is she mixes and matches a lot in the different genres. But it's just because someone does something or writes something that someone else has written doesn't mean plagiarism or whatever. They've used it as source material and recreated it as something that as their own.
Yeah, so it was giving Violet dreamwalking for sure. I was getting, but I was also like, okay, so now I've read 2 books in 2025 with dreamwalking. Got it, check, and we're moving on. So yeah, we had our spicy time, and then we find out that Everlane was at one point in love with Taladeus, and that they were betrothed, like to be married. So there's some information there that we didn't have before. But Tal ends up fleeing the Winter Palace because he's actually in love with someone else. So the love triangle we thought we were going to get
wedding.
for Tal. Yeah, night before their wedding. Yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was devastating. And so also, you have to think too, there's what we thought we were going to get for love triangle and what we got, which was not what I was expecting. Yeah. So I was not expecting.
No, I'm like, Zilvaren. She's awful.
No,
maybe she wasn't bitter at some point in time, but she's just awful. I'm like, Tal, what? Yeah. You could do so much better. You're so sweet and thoughtful. Like you literally tried to kill the whole court and save her. But, her. Okay. That's all right. So after we learned that, we go to chapter 21, which is another skip in time to Carrion and Kingfisher. Essentially, as they slept, Saeris healed him. And Carrion's like, that's not fucking fair because Carrion's still covered in welts and shit. And Fisher's, I'm fine. He's, you get to go hang out with your girlfriend. And Carrion keeps saying girlfriend, and Fisher's like, she's not my girlfriend. She's just not my girlfriend. It's deeper than that. He's like, whatever. He's like, of all the things I said, girlfriend is not the issue here.
Or once called her that. And he's, oh yeah, hey.
And then Fisher changes into Carrion's clothes because they have to leave, and they still have to get Hayden. So they still have shit to do. So he changes into the clothes, and then this is another depth aspect of Carrion. He's been essentially drawing Avelia and his parents since he can remember. He's just been drawing them, and there's like drawings all over his room. And this is where Fisher again is like, there's so much more to you. You're not just some like little prick that gets a rise out of pissing people off. And there's this one specifically of Avelia that stuck out to Fisher because it still had the Dianthus flag flying. And so as far as Fisher has known for a long time, it's been the Dabara flag. So you need to take this home with you. Home meaning Avelia. So I really liked that aspect of, you see Fisher softening, and Carrion has been longing for a place to call his own, and he still struggles with that sort of aspect of himself because Zilvaren has never been his home, and he struggles with Avelia being his home too because he's a stranger in that place also.
Yeah, and I think we all knew as readers the level of depth that Carrion truly had, but Kingfisher just like never gave him enough credit or space because he didn't want to. And I think him having to acknowledge that was difficult for him because it goes against what he wants to do, and he's stubborn as shit, as we all know. But also, I think it just was a moment where he is, okay, maybe there's hope yet for Carrion as an heir.
Yeah.
And I wonder too if that's like part of what we're seeing here too, is just like this from a writing perspective, from a Callie Hart perspective. Is she taking us on this journey with those two specifically? What is she hoping to attain, make the story go forward with? I think a lot of that has to do with credibility for Carrion overall and with the Fae. And so if he has credibility with Fisher, that goes a long way with everyone else. And he hasn't had that. And so I think that this journey, even though we've called it the Shrek and Donkey show for so long, there is a level of depth here and a level of mutual trust that's happening and relationship building that needed to occur to give Carrion that validity going into what he needs to do and who he is as his birthright. Because how else is he going to get it? So we have to have some of that relationship building here. And I think we see a lot of that in these chapters where these moments are occurring. So I enjoyed that. I really liked it. I thought it was hilarious, but I also thought that there was meaning and there was purpose behind it. And it made sense. Middle book. Yeah. Like it made sense that we're going on this and that they're separated. Like this needed to occur somehow. And it couldn't just be on the back of Saeris. That wouldn't have been enough. He needed to have his own relationship with his own Fae relationships building separate from her. And so we see that happen here, which I really enjoyed.
Yeah. In chapter 22, so we're back with Saeris. Saeris is trading with Lorith. And the Saeris chapters, I think it's good that we have the Carrion Kingfisher chapters because there's a lot of comedy there. And the Saeris chapters are very heavy in terms of like magic building and her journey. So you have to have that balance, or I feel like it would have been too much, honestly. Just because there's and anytime we bring Foley in, there's just a lot of magic building. Saeris is training with Lorith, and Saeris sucks with using her god sword because it's so huge. So he's okay, let's use a staff because you might need a staff at some point in time. And she's noticing she's getting a lot faster having had rested, although the resting wasn't very restful.
Yeah, we know.
Then after training, she goes and sees Foley, and Foley's whole point and throughout this book is to basically give Saeris information because we need to know a lot about the magic system of the alchemist, and Foley's like the only person because his family line had an alchemist in it, and he's just the one that knows, and he's been hiding in this library for 700 years, so he's read every single fucking book that they have.
Yeah. So time out 1 second. For those listening, Michelle, what is an alchemist in case nobody knows what that is?
So an alchemist is someone who can transmute metals using magic. That's essentially what an alchemist does. And alchemy has been like referenced all throughout history, ultimately, as like a magic user. A lot of people use it or in the past, it's been referenced to like transmute simple metals to like gold to be sold. But here we have Saeris or alchemist who's able to turn quicksilver as like a liquid metal into something else that can be used, or other metals. Ultimately, they can forge them. So if you haven't known so far, that is what an alchemist is.
Just a reminder. And also it's a Fae and Alchemy series, so you should learn.
You should know.
The reason I asked to mention that is because it's the Fae and Alchemy series. We talked earlier in the episode about Fae being something that's been used in a variety of books in this genre, but there's some like kernel of reuse that we know about the Fae as an overarching, and that's true of alchemy as well. So a basis of understanding of alchemy. However, the magic systems, the way that it's identified, the way that it's used differs in different series. And so that's why I wanted to take a second and just, in this world, alchemy a lot of times is related to Quicksilver. It's not always specific to that metal, but a lot of the root of it in alchemy is related to this. Yeah. And also Quicksilver ties us to other realms, and it's a form of travel, which is true for alchemy either. But in this series, that is the case, and that is where we link magical systems. If you're watching, you're probably wondering why Michelle and I suddenly changed clothes. Well, we filmed this episode, and Michelle, why don't you tell them what happened? What you tell them?
Yeah. So we filmed the episode, and about 20 minutes in, my video just disappeared. And my audio and everything. So Danny was just talking to herself for the rest of the episode, which is so fun dealing with post-stop. So now we have to refilm. So here we are, take 2. Yes. So if you're watching, we definitely have we look different, but that's okay.
That's okay. Also, a good portion of this episode was great. So we decided to leave that portion as is. And we're picking up at chapter 23. And we'll finish this puppy out, act like everything went smoothly, and we're good. We're home free. But we appreciate your patience. We know that a lot of you listen each week, and I know that we didn't have a drop for you this past Thursday. So our apologies on that. It's usually not typical of us. I don't think actually it's ever happened where we've missed our deadline, if not maybe by a day, but I don't think we've ever missed it by this long. So, things happen. We appreciate you bearing with us. And let's get started with chapter 23. And keep this thing rolling.
Right. So chapter 23, we are back in Zilvaren. We have Fisher and Carrion following Hayden in the second ward, which, we had a lot of theories of where Hayden is, right? And he's just diddling around the second ward. And they just find him. It's like, wow, that just, I had this whole theory of where he's been. He's been with the keeper. He's been with Fisher's father and all of that.
Oh, yeah.
That didn't happen. It was still fun creating that theory, but that's not what happened here. As they're tracking him, Hayden threw a knife at Fisher since Madra has said and put posters everywhere that he's a traitor that took Saeris and, gave him the name the Butcher of Zilvaren and all of that. She essentially turned Saeris into this martyr who's hated among the third. And Fisher at this time is just listen, Carrion, you deal with this because I'm not dealing with this right now. I can't deal with the stupidity of what he's saying from this woman who doesn't even give them fresh water, that you're just going to believe everything that she says based on posters and whatnot. So, which I don't blame Fisher. He's just I'm done. I'm so done after all that we've been through.
Yeah. And honestly, Hayden, I'm just sir, but also, okay, we get it. You're brainwashed, whatever. We get it.
He will continue to disappoint in his perspective of Saeris and all the things. Wow, you were sheltered. You were such a sheltered little boy. And then...
and unappreciative.
No, very unappreciative. How Saeris literally sacrifices her life on the daily for you, and you're going to be yeah, Madra said you're a traitor, so...
Yeah, what the hell? I can't with Hayden. He just annoyed me from this point forward. I'm just annoyed.
He annoyed me from the very beginning. He's just very annoying little brother-esque. Hopefully he comes into his own in book 3. But for book 2, he kind of sucked.
Yeah.
So
agree.
Carrion then finds out that Gracia, which is his mom in this generation, she died, and they attend the funeral in the desert, and they have this whole they burn the bodies and everything. And Fisher and Carrion have this sweet Fisher lets Carrion hug him and lets him grieve, and then they leave.
Yeah.
They have this little moment together. And then we go into Cleansing Day the 3rd, which really just pissed Fisher off. Fisher really detested Zilvaren and Madra before, but now really seeing that this is cleansing day, it just he goes crazy.
It's bringing up what happened to his mate, right? So it's bringing up that reminder of the cleansing that happened to Saeris and related to as far as her inability to procreate. And there's a sterilization that is Madra approved, and essentially that she takes the folks that are in the third, who are the poorest of the poor, and has them sterilized. And it's just, he can no longer hide his contempt and rage, and he just starts to use his magic to kill all these guards and cover the city entirely in darkness, because he's just so enraged at what he's seeing and doesn't want to see this continue. So
which we don't blame him. That's awful.
No, of course not.
Like, something that was taken from him, essentially, which we don't know now that she's in her new form. I wonder if maybe that is something that she can do. But, in her old form, that's something that essentially was done to her, and it greatly affects him in his future as well. So.
Right. Maybe. We don't know that now in her new form if that's true or not. So I guess we're going to find out. But we do know that it did impact Saeris as a child and is obviously, horrific. So to see Kingfisher kind of step up for Saeris with her not even being present was, we love it. Love to see it. Chapter 24, we bounce back to Saeris' point of view. Saeris is in the forge. She's making her relics, and she's bargaining with the Quicksilver, and she's giving it a memory to make the relic. And this is where the Hazrax is like, oh, hey, hello. And you're like, oh, God, hey, Hazrax, He just like pops up out of nowhere on the now, in the now and then. And he's not exactly subtle about this, because he kind of just looks like a Dementor with like really long teeth. I don't know. He just is not, he's not subtle, but I think he thinks he is, or they think they are. I don't know. We don't assign gender yet to Mr. Hazrax or Mrs. Hazrax. We don't know. We don't know what's going on with the Hazrax. I don't think they have a gender anyway. So the Hazrax is questioning Saeris, because Saeris keeps giving something and bargaining every single time with this Quicksilver, and she needs to go ahead and seal this Quicksilver rune so she doesn't have to continue to barter with the Quicksilver. And of course, the Hazrax strikes a bargain with Saeris, and it's because he wants the same deal he had. The Hazrax is like, I've got a bargain to strike with you, because of course the Hazrax has a bargain. The Hazrax had a bargain with Malcolm. So therefore, now that Saeris is the leader, the entirety of their goal, the Hazrax wants to see everything that's going on. And there's a lot of things that, Michelle, you and I kind of talked about as we read through, was the motivation for this. And like, the Hazrax typically is not kind of supposed to get involved. And the Hazrax isn't a fate per se, but I kind of perceive them as one, because they definitely are knowing more than they're sharing, especially about future events that they shouldn't have any knowledge of. So there's definitely some things there that are questionable about behavior from the Hazrax that comes into play. And the deal is struck, and it's that Saeris is going to receive one favor a year in exchange for permission to stay and observe, with the opportunity to renew the bargain each year. So this is something that they work out, and they have this bargaining that it works out to where, now the Hazrax can stay, works out in Saeris' benefit as well, because she isn't out with renewing the bargain each year versus Malcolm just accept it in perpetuity. And then there's pain associated with Saeris' power, and she starts to feel out of control, and she just like runs away at this point. And there's these moments where she gets really overwhelmed with everything that's kind of happened and everything that's happening to her body, and just not really feeling in control like she did before she turned. And I think a lot of that time speaks to why she needs to stay in Amontreath anyway. But also, we know she can't go to Zilvaren because of the two sons and all of that. But she also, like, she just got turned not that long ago. And she has to really take time to try to figure this out. And it's a lot for her mind. It's a lot for her body. And she's going through a lot in chapter 24.
Right. And I mean, a lot of it, like a lot of the time, we talked about how like we get frustrated with her because she keeps running from her responsibilities. And, we understand as readers that it's a lot. This is a different Saeris than what we're used to seeing because, she just runs away. And we're used to her really just confronting her problems and everything that she's faced, because she's faced a fuck ton. Right. But that leads us into chapter 25. So again, we're back in Zilvaren. Carrion leads Fisher and Hayden to Elroy's forge. So we had all these theories on who Elroy was. Well, Elroy was important, just not in the way that anyone really thought he was. Danny, I think you even talked about how Elroy wasn't really, you didn't think Elroy was that important. Did you have any theories about who Elroy was?
So the internet really thought Elroy was important. I never subscribed to the thought that he was that important. I kind of thought it was too easy. I always knew he was of some importance because how else would he be making weapons with her mom and all of that? I mean, there had to be some kind of relevance there. But I mean, to me, he kind of fulfilled what I thought he was going to be. So I didn't think he was secretly Kingfisher's dad or any of that, which, by the way, none of my theories really came out to be true. So that doesn't mean I know anything or anything like that. It just means for whatever reason, I didn't really subscribe to the idea that that was true. I think he fulfilled what I thought he was going to. I thought Hayden's where he was going to be at was going to be a lot more than just, oh, he's in 2.
Okay, so we do find out why Elroy's important. It turns out that Elroy and his entire family have been basically doing what the Swift family has been doing this whole time. They've been taking care of the forge, and he knew that everything, or not everything, but he knew about Saeris and her power this whole time. And because his family they take care of the Quicksilver pool, and they feed the Quicksilver pool, and have been for centuries. And this is why the pool is, as Fisher says, is the biggest pool he's ever seen. And Elroy's completely unfazed. He's whatever. It's a Quicksilver pool. I don't give a fuck.
It also makes sense with Saeris of, as a kid, how would she mask the fact that she had some magic? She didn't, is the true story.
No,
Elroy
she didn't.
Knew. Yeah.
She did a really shit job.
That plot hole where there were other people who were nobody ever knew she had magic. And that's not really true because they identify that in chapter 1 of Quicksilver. He lifts the sand. It's one of my favorite scenes that I can't wait to see visually when we see it on screen, is the sand lifts off the ground as she's going after this gauntlet. So how did she mask that for so long? She really didn't. So even though she didn't know she was magical, Elroy definitely did. And probably her mom did too. And who knows who her father is, but definitely took her in and was we got to protect her because she's definitely half something. So,
which you bring up a good point about who's her father. That's something that has not been answered. And I don't know if that will be answered in book 3, but that's a plot hole, essentially. Who is her mom? Do we find out who her mom is and how she is magic? So
we know her, but we don't know her. And
no, we don't know anything about her. Yeah. And her dad's MIA, maybe. Yeah. Who knows?
Yep.
Yep.
We don't really know anything about the parents, that's for sure. So they get shown the big Quicksilver pool, and that wraps that chapter. So now we're bouncing back and forth back to chapter 26, where Saeris runs to the Quicksilver pool below Treath because this is where she's running away from the Hazrax in the previous chapter. And so she runs to the Quicksilver pool because she keeps hearing the Quicksilver talk to her, and if you join me, I'll help you. She decides okay, fine. She joins the Quicksilver pool, and she decides to stop fighting her magic entirely, and she lets it in completely. And there's this whole dialogue because every alchemist must have something to fear, and they have to deem it a worthy fear, basically. And she ends up saying that she would give up everything for Kingfisher, and that's her biggest fear, is Fisher. And so then that means that she has something that she holds dear that isn't just the magic, that she isn't going to be so in power that she has nothing that can be taken from her, and that power just consumes her because, of course, power corrupts, as we've seen in countless stories through the ages. And so this is the thing that kind of is supposed to keep the alchemist balanced is that they have something that they could lose and something that would break them emotionally if they lost that, and something that keeps them from teetering over that edge. And for Saeris, it's Fisher, which we knew, but this is identified more very clearly in this moment. And the Quicksilver ends up throwing her back and it's like, all right, we're satisfied with that response. Cool.
It's interesting that, and I haven't thought about this, but it's really interesting how the Quicksilver has so much choice in who the alchemists are, and really just them the Quicksilver could have denied Saeris, finding that she's like too corrupt, but that's done with that. And obviously the Quicksilver has seen a lot of corruption in the past, and we know that the Quicksilver is sentient, likely tied to the gods. And it's just interesting that we're getting a lot of, I don't want to say character development, because I don't feel like Quicksilver is a character, but a lot of development in what like the Quicksilver is.
I don't know. It's like of the gods.
Yeah.
You know? And so Callie definitely
adjacent
pointed to that when we talked to her. Yeah. But Callie talked about that a lot, about how the Quicksilver is tied to the gods. And we know that it's tied to Zareth. And we know that, like, God of Chaos it's tied there. And the question I have is, did they make a mistake in the past? There was somebody that we interviewed when we did our Brimstone event that said that they thought Madra was an alchemist. And it just makes me wonder, did they maybe make a deal or give power where they shouldn't have? And now a condition of that is, yeah, you need to have something that we deem is worthwhile to have a balance. I don't know if that points to maybe some of the villains we might see come out in book 3, but something worth noting that maybe there's some truth to that.
Yeah. That makes sense. So chapters 27, they are facing the pool, and essentially the Quicksilver pool explodes, and that just means it awakens. And Fisher's, wait a minute, did I lose track of time? It definitely has not been 3 days, and we got to go. So Fisher gives Hayden a relic, and he tells Carrion and Hayden to think of Saeris, and then so they have to cut their journey short, essentially. And Fisher tells Carrion and Hayden to think of Saeris because they're hopping into the pool, and then they'll hopefully go back to Saeris. Hayden doesn't know where Saeris is, so he has to think of Saeris, because, you know, it's not like Fisher's who can think of a location, because usually that's when you enter the Quicksilver pool, you think of your location. Fisher needs to make sure that Hayden doesn't end up in God knows
somewhere
where.
else. Yeah, who knows what.
And some random realm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, they enter the pool, and that's that. And that wraps our chapter coverage. So Danny, now it's time for our down the rabbit hole bookish rant. What question do you have for us?
So we kind of alluded to this before, where we were talking earlier in the episode about not being right on some of the theories we had. And I think that that's totally fine. So let me preface by saying that I don't want to be right. It's fun if I am or you are, but if we're not right, it honestly makes the story more enjoyable, because just like with a thriller, I really don't want to predict the ending. I want to be surprised and I want to have a good run with it. But I do want to talk about the love triangle that wasn't with this series. I think so many people wanted the Taladeus, Kingfisher, Saeris love triangle, and they felt that overall in this novel that there wasn't enough conflict, especially love interest related conflict. So I wanted to take a moment and talk to you about that, Michelle. I feel like the internet really went insane with a lot of folks downrating this book solely on the fact that the theory they thought could have happened, which was the Taladeus love triangle. And to be fair, we were in that camp too, that we thought that we heard his voice. We had a whole clip where, you know, we were definitely wrong on that. And that's okay. But to me, that didn't impact my rating of this book, nor did it make me feel like I didn't get something that I was missing. I don't know. What are your thoughts there?
So everyone knows that I was all for the white shoes. Like, you can have both men. It'll be fine. But the fact that just because I didn't get that doesn't mean I didn't enjoy the book. And there are so many people that are just like, nothing happened this book. And I'm like, did we read the same book? How can you say that nothing happened? I mean, yes, it's a solid middle book. So we have a lot of plot development. We have a lot of world development. We have a lot of character development happening. Yep. Do we have like the yearning anymore? No, we don't have the yearning anymore, because Saeris and Kingfisher are on a different part of their relationship, right? They are fated mates at this point. The yearning wouldn't make sense. He has her. Done deal. Done.
Solidly, no.
I would have loved Taladeus. And maybe it's Taladeus and Carrion, a Carrion yearning.
I don't see
now
it.
that we know.
But I don't know.
No, he
There's
was
definitely a Danya
disappointed.
Carrion hookup, but other than that, I
Oh,
don't think
yeah.
we've seen Carrion's mate yet. Which begs the question of like maybe
No.
this is time for book 3 side character to have their moment.
Ooh. Yeah. I would love to see who Carrion's mate is. I hope it's not Danya. She pissed
I
me
don't
off in
think
book
so.
1 so
It doesn't
much.
seem to
But
be.
no, you know, they can have a fling. It's fine.
Yeah.
What about you? What are your thoughts?
I think there's people that are upset that the Renfis Everlane thing didn't pan out either, and that she's still asleep. So, you know, oh, she slept the whole time. We didn't get to see if that's panning out. Hurt. I agree that there's frustration because things didn't pan out the way you wanted to, but to say that nothing happened in the 600-page book is just not accurate. And I think simply unfair.
Right.
You know, she has to build to something for book 3, and you're not going to have the closure that you're going to have, and you're not going to have the excitement of book 1 because book 1 is you're starting the whole world. Everything is new to you. Everything has to be introduced. You know, Saeris' perspective now is very different than she was in book 1, but I still think in book 2 we get a lot of surprises. We get Fisher's mom. We get a lot of kernels of things that we had no idea where these things were going to go or how these things were going to work out, that worked out in we get to learn about in Brimstone. And I think that your thoughts on the titles and all of that it's just going to be really interesting to see where we go. But because a theory you had didn't pan out and a romance path that didn't pan out, I don't think it's fair to rate the book based on that because your theory didn't happen. And maybe folks are saying like, they're not really saying that, but under the guise of saying like, oh, nothing happened. But because I feel like a lot of it has to do with the fact that the Taladeus love triangle didn't occur and people are upset about that. And that just I don't think it's fair in my opinion.
Right. I mean, people love being right? People love giving their opinion. People love being right. But just because you weren't correct doesn't mean the book was nothing. Because like you said, it's kind of an insult to it's definitely an insult to the author. It's an insult to Callie Hart because she wrote this entire novel in order to set up for book 3. And I think people forget that this is a middle book. Middle books, they don't get as big of a fight scene. There's more build up to it. Just like the middle of a book. The same thing as the middle of a series. There's going to be a little bit more build up instead of like this big climactic fight battle and all that stuff. So
that's right. All right, let's wrap things up now without our mystery Q&A. Down the Rabbit Hole, though, is a newer segment for us. If you're enjoying that part of our show, please let us know. If there's any things you would think would be a good thing to go down the rabbit hole on, it is basically anything from big taboo subjects that surround a series we're currently covering or things in literature that you want to know about, anything like that, let us know and we'll be happy to consider discussing it in the Down the Rabbit Hole segment. So on to mystery Q&A. I have a question for you, Michelle. I don't think we've ever asked it. My question for you is, you have to go to a black tie event of some kind. What cut or style of dress would be like a go-to for you? Or are you just not going? Better question. You just
That's an option.
Go.
Is that an option?
Yeah.
Because not going, as of right now, leaving the house is like awful.
Take that all out of the
Target.
Yeah. No, take that all off the table.
But that's about it.
It's a babysitter. All that's squared away. Are you going? Okay. Are you staying home? What are we doing?
I am very much we're in Florida. Like, I love the idea of like sheared sleeves and or lace sleeves, but we live in Florida. It gets hot as fuck in here. So I like
where you're going has very high AC. Sure.
Well, that just reminds, because like my wedding dress, I just remember planning my wedding, and my wedding dress, it was like the lace sleeves. That was a very, very popular in the late 2010s. Oh, wow. And then I was like, wait, we're going to have an outdoor wedding in a garden. That's not in August. That's not.
Yeah, it's
good
hot.
idea. Yeah, it's very hot in August. It's not fall here. It may be cool in some places. It's not here. So sweetheart neckline, I'm very much, because I'm pear shaped. So mermaid silhouette is kind of my thing. And I don't know, I'm very like simple in terms of like, I don't like bedazzled stuff and everything. So A nice black.
Just a black sweetheart neckline? Okay.
Yep. Yep. What about you?
Okay. I might stay home. No, just kidding. I don't know. For a black tie thing, I think it's tough because you do have to consider the elements. Like, where are we going? Is it to a wedding or something like that? Obviously, a wedding, you don't wear white, so white's off the table. So, I mean, I love the idea of a
You
good
would think,
sleeve.
wait, you made a comment. You would think this is an argument I had to have with my, to my wedding, my mom wanted to wear a dress with white in it. I'm like, you're in the wedding. You can't. And there
Yeah,
were a
that's not a
lot of
thing.
people who came to my wedding who had like white dresses on. They had flowers on and stuff. But I'm just like, don't we know you don't wear white? Even if there's flowers. Like, that's not a thing. You don't do that.
I agree with you.
So that was,
Obviously. I already said that. But that's unfortunate. And also, yeah, don't wear white to people's weddings if you're not in the wedding. Yeah, don't do that. Unless the bride is like, we don't care, wear flip flops or something, you know? But
right.
if it, traditionally in a black tie or formal wedding, you're not going to wear white because the bride is wearing white. But I digress. So I think I would wear something super classic. Usually, I love a good button down front dress, like that has buttons that can be slightly revealing, or you can like decide
Ooh.
if you want it to be. I like that. So you can like dress it up or dress it down depending on where you're going. So maybe you're going to like a fancier theater, but then you're going to go out for drinks afterwards and you want to, or it's something that has like a good shawl, but maybe you can have some cleavage. I like a set, which is probably sounds really old when I say it like that, but I like a good like over something to go over my dress, but I can like make it more revealing or not revealing depending on the venue. But I like a good silk, but you usually got to wear like some kind of Spanx or something with that so you don't have like the underwear line, but you know, fashion's difficult. That's tough, but I don't go
Especially
to a
for
lot of
women.
black. I don't go to a lot of fancy things anymore. So I just thought about asking you that because we don't really go out to fancy stuff. We don't get a lot of black tie events anymore.
When was the last black tie event you went to?
I think it was a wedding. Yeah. We went to a wedding last year. So, but it wasn't a black tie, but it was still like a fancy wedding. It was a nice wedding.
Okay, so my question is now, well, just a preface. So I had to give up dairy because little guy I think, has an allergy just because he's been like really gassy. So in giving up dairy, I've had some big feelings about what the industry is and what has dairy in it. Literally everything has dairy in it for no fucking reason. I know you've been dairy free for quite some time. What is something that you have had to give up that you miss? Or do you miss anything? Or
Oh, sour
have you
cream
found like an amazing alternative? Okay, sour cream. Have
and
you
cream
not had,
cheese.
are there alternatives that you found that are like okay, maybe?
For cream cheese, yes. The thing that I miss the most is that. So for sour cream and cream cheese both, it's actually when I buy it to go home, it's not a big deal. But there's no alternatives when you go out to eat, at least not really in our area, especially like any of the bagel places. So that's one thing I miss is like they'll give you butter or they'll give you cream cheese. So there's no dairy alternative. It's just like, oh, you can have a bagel plain. And it's like, okay, well, that's not
It's
any
dry.
fun. Yeah, like it's just,
No.
and like respectfully, like avocado on a bagel is just not the same vibe as cream cheese. It just doesn't even,
No.
it doesn't taste the same. It's not, yeah. So I would say like truly like a really great everything bagel toasted with like a whole bunch of like some kind of flavor of cream cheese. That I miss. I haven't had one in years and years and years, and I miss that. You probably would have thought I would have said ice cream or something, but I can do an Italian ice or something like that, and it's just as satisfying to me. And there's also a lot of oat milk based ice creams and stuff, and there's a lot of places that have alternatives or they have sherbet or something like that. But like bagel cream cheese at a bagel place or a breakfast place, very few and far between will they have dairy free cream cheese. So yeah, that one I miss definitely. What about you so far? Has there been anything that has stuck out that you're like, I really miss this one thing?
I just miss cheese. I ate so much cheese when I was pregnant that I just miss cheese. I miss a good cheese stick. I miss, yeah, I miss like just really just even like just the cold cheese sticks from my fridge.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I just miss cheese. And yeah, there are some cashew based ones that I'm like, okay, at least it's like melty like cheese ish, but it doesn't have the right taste. Like I miss
Oh
cheese
no, it doesn't.
in
Yeah.
general. No,
Yeah.
because we eat a lot of Italian food. I'm like, well, this is just sad without Parmesan. And I read, and I was like, oh, I can do like lactose free things, and that's fine.
But
But
you can also do
actually, if
aged.
you're
You can
breastfeeding,
probably do aged
well,
Parmesan.
not if when you're breastfeeding. When you're breastfeeding, what transfers through is the milk protein, and the milk protein is in like the lactose free stuff. Even though I miss all these things, it's a sacrifice I guess I'll have to make. I don't have a choice now, do I?
No, it'll be fine. It will be fine. Okay, Michelle, let's wrap this episode.
Before I wrap up, let's talk about what's coming up next on Book Club After Dark.
All right, next week we're diving into chapters 28 through 36 of Brimstone by Callie Hart. And of course, we're looking forward to further dissecting this novel with you.
And don't forget, we want to hear from you. If you have thoughts on Brimstone or suggestions for future reads, drop a comment below or message us on one of our social media platforms at Book Club After Dark Pod. Show us your fan art, theories, or anything bookish you'd like to share.
You can also visit our website, bookclubafterdark.co, to stay up to date on our cozy content and check out our merch. And speaking of merch, very quickly, I wanted to give a shout out and a thank you to Paraphrase Gift Shop, who sent us a couple of items. Sent us this There She Is shirt, which was, of course, from one of our favorite series, which is from
And the Wings of
It's
the
in the
Night.
Serpent and the Wings of Night. Yes, so it is, of course, from one of our favorite series by Carissa Broadbent, the Crowns of Nyaxia series. And, oh, we got a cool mug. We've got a mug that says Haunted by my TBR. Look at that. Very nice. So you can visit them on Etsy, and that is Paraphrase Gift Shop. So check them out on Etsy, and thank you so much for sending that over to us.
Yeah, thank you so much. Those are so cute. All right, well, that's all for tonight. Sleep tight, night owls. Until next time, happy reading.